Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
this is on my computer now. I'm going to go to Facebook. So just one quick minute, Katie. Hold that thought. You know what? Do you have a podcast yet?
I do not.
Oh, wow. I would love to do interviews with you on my podcast.
Really?
Yeah. I
That
think you
would be
would
so.
get questions out that I would never think of having.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And you would read through people's bullshit. Okay.
Funny.
So anytime you see I'm doing an interview and you want to do it, I'll start inviting you to co-host interview with me if you'd like.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I know how you are, and don't you worry. I got your back. I know you like to watch these interviews after the fact. Go right ahead. Okay, so I have an interview for you today, and this is the interview of interviews because this lady is so real, so awesome. And like I said real, but she's also real and authentic. Some people are real, but are they really authentic? She's everything. She's so cool. I just could talk with her for hours. We got to talking, and I said, hold on, this people have to hear this. So let me say the intro that Katie Blunt over there, Katie Blunt, sent me. Hi, Katie. Here's her introduction. Katie Blunt is a New York-based comedian and actress who performs regularly in New York and Los Angeles. She was in the LA Comedy Festival, the New York Queer Comedy Festival, the Comedy Chateau Festival, Comedy Mod Festival, Skank Fest, and Laughter After Dark. She has also opened for, get this, Rich Voss and Zarna Garg, OMG. Featured in the West Side Rag, her show Milk and Cookies is a family-friendly comedy show sponsored by Crumble. She also runs a monthly show in New York called Psych, a comedy show, in which she does psychic readings for audience members in between comics. And she hosts open mics for up and coming comedians. I love her, and you got to get to know her. So sit down, grab a drink, stay hydrated, and let's get to know Katie Blunt. Hi, Katie.
Hi.
Hi, Katie. Tell people what we were talking about right before I went live. It's so stinking interesting.
Oh my gosh. Can I remember what we were talking about
I
before we went? I
know.
think
We were talking, and I'm like, I hope you remember. It was so deep. We get into deep conversations.
yeah. Well, I think we were talking about trying to choose what you want to talk about on stage and the need to I think you were saying that you needed to find you had such a great phrase that you used that I would not be able to replicate, where you said, what is the let me look at the parts of my life that are, and then you used a bunch of adjectives and I can't quite recall what they were. Do you remember what they were?
Yeah, weird, hard, stupid, and scary. The worst of the worst, or the
Yes.
best, or the funniest, or stupidest. Yeah, go for the
Yes.
emotion.
Go for like the deeper parts. I think that's such a good point. But I was saying that I think you have to, well, I think I have to have processed the feelings around that thing. So I could, when I first started, I think I had jokes about my divorce and my son being born. I couldn't talk about things relating to like, I mean, my son was born, he's going to be 10, when I started stand up, he had been born, years before. So it was just like, I think you have to kind of process whatever it is, whatever the pain is that you're going to be talking about. I also think it's so fun to draw connections between um, like what's personal and what's out there,
Yeah,
political, or it doesn't have to be political, but just things relating to like social trends and stuff like that. I think is fun to see how that relates to the personal stuff.
I like that. One of the things that blows my mind in comedy is I still, every time I think about it, my mind goes, is that they say that the deeper you dig into a subject, like when we first start comedy, we're like, I'm from Portland, Oregon, you know, uh, I have a twin brother, and we're real surface. And they say that the
Mhm.
deeper you dig into your own life, the more relatable you become. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you mean to tell me that if I start going inward and start focusing on me, that's what relates? It seems like that makes me a narcissist. But by digging deeper and getting more and more real, exponentially more people get your persona or get is that
Mhm. Yeah. I think that's true. I think that's really true. That
yeah.
you have to kind of dig into who you are.
Yeah.
What kinds of techniques do you use? How do you get in touch with yourself?
How do I do what?
I said, how do you get in touch with yourself? What are
Okay,
do you have exercises that you do, or do you have like a daily practice?
I have 2 things. Well, 3 things, but who knows if I'll remember them all now that I said I have 3, I might only call up 2. So, I'm really big on practicing and practicing my material in different ways. And I
Mhm.
learned this trick from New York comedian Steve Marshall. You gotta meet him. He's all
Okay.
about he does comedy for peace around the world. Anyway,
Mm.
so he says, get your mattress and get it off your bed and put it up against the wall and say your comedy set while you're boxing your mattress.
No.
Yeah. And it worked. I didn't know how to deliver a punchline. I didn't know where the funny was. And when I started doing that, it just came out organically where the laughs were and where to slow down and where to go faster. It just like it was incredible. That's one thing I do when I'm just coming up with material and don't know how to deliver it.
Hmm.
That's one thing. I like practicing imperfectly. I force we get so caught up in we must be perfect or whatever, and I
Hmm.
like to say my set all the wrong way, all the wrong words, all the wrong phraseology, the wrong tone of voice, the wrong movements that don't go, an act out that doesn't go with what I'm talking about. Do it all like Lucille Ball on crack. And out of that comes some of the best ideas when you let yourself just drop. Okay, I'm going to hey guys, I'm Linda Marcus Smith, and I say Linda Marcus Smith because I'm still mad about John Wilkes' book. I get so sick and tired of saying my jokes the same way. And so if I open myself up like I'm a Linda, is it LDS, LSMFT? No, that was a cigarette in the 60s. Just you come up with crazy other stuff.
That's so interesting. I think that is something I need to think about. Well, they bring up a few different issues, like a few different ideas. One is this concept of shadow work. I don't know if you've done that or if you are familiar with that.
No.
Shadow work is work that you do where you kind of imagine you kind of you go through in your mind all of the worst things you could possibly do. The things that you think I could never do that. That would be impossible. I would never be that sort of person. But as you like list them out, you start to get a sense of how much you might actually be entering into the gray area of doing those things that you think are so bad. It just teaches you about like who you are as a person. Instead of saying, I'm going to be good and I'm going to do this good stuff, sometimes I think it's helpful to think about like, what are the things that I would never in my life do? So that's the shadow work aspect of things. The
I love
other
that.
issue that you bring up that I think is really interesting also is this idea of like just finding ways to keep it different because it's so repetitive sometimes. You're doing the same things, the same jokes. So how do
Yeah.
you keep it different? How do you keep it interesting? And I love that idea of I think I do try to do with like different tones of voice, different like levels of volume, different registers. I think that is helpful. I have a hard time doing the same jokes over and over. I know I need to get better about that.
It's
Like,
awful. It's just torture for us. And we think that we need to throw out jokes because we're sick of them. And some of them are classics. They're like people remember us by certain jokes.
right. That's
Have
true.
you ever taken a joke and, like, instead of taking a joke, make a joke into a story? Or take a joke and make it start with a rhetorical question or have alternate punchlines.
I love the idea of all punchlines. I think I haven't done those other things about taking it and making it into like I haven't thought about really. I think I do need to play with like shifting my jokes around a little bit more, maybe.
It's so fun. I love, you know what I like about alternate punchlines is when the same comedians come to the same open mic week after week and they know your stuff, but you're still working on it. And when you throw in an alternate punchline, they stay, they go, oh no, she didn't, you know.
Yeah,
I've
that's
got
true.
I've got so many alternate punchlines when I go on stage. I don't know which punchline's coming out.
That's so funny.
It's kind of fun.
Can you give me an example of a joke with alternate punchlines?
Let me see.
Is that okay, or is that burning your material? Would you rather keep it
Not
private?
at all. I don't subscribe to that.
Oh,
I hope somebody steals my material and I hope they have deep pockets, deeper than Captain Kangaroo. But no, let's see. Like, you know, with the Linda Marcus Smith thing, you know, like I'm Linda Marcus. It depends on the crowd, you know. Sometimes I just get sick of the regular joke and I
mhm,
change it for the comics in the back of the room. Like at Wise Guys, there might be 100 people watching an open mic. So I
mhm,
might switch it for the comics in the back because they're not paying attention tonight. Or
mhm.
I might look at the crowd and think they really want dirty, so I'm going to give it to them. You know, like I go by Linda Marcus Smith, and you would too if you were a slut in 1962. You know, just anything that comes. I might not have it planned. I can't think right now of alternates that I've got loaded, but you know, anything works as a punchline,
Oh my
especially
God. I love that joke.
you know, just like I don't know. Just, that's kind of what I mean. But I have ones like my old. I haven't done my old. Okay, like I come from Portland, Oregon, and I know what you're thinking. No, I didn't burn statues and riot. Do I look like that type? Or I might go. I come from the Upper West Side, not of the map of. I mean, not of New York, of the map. You know, it's crazy town. In fact, I'm the best export. Do you know how bad my town has to be for me to be the best? Or I might say, I'm the best export. Well, unless you count chlamydia, widespread. By the way, that's how you get it, widespread. So I have lots of different ways you can go with every last thought.
That's so interesting. I need to do that. That's so cool.
It looks like riffing, but it's not. It's like it's tools in your tool belt to
Yeah.
go like if the crowd looks like they're a bunch of accountants or it's a bachelorette party, you know, you go one way with the joke and it's like crowd work, but crowd work with your jokes that's planned.
That's cool. I love that. That's
Thank
really
you.
cool.
Yeah, it's fun. Okay, so tell the masses that are watching this whole show. People are watching afterwards on YouTube, but it'll get better. But um, like 43 hours a month is what I get as
Oh,
far
wow.
as it's getting better. But
Mhm.
tell people, you know, who you are, where you were raised, and your growing up, what that was like compared to where you are now.
Oh God, what a difficult question.
Yeah, I like people to get to when I get to know somebody, I kind of you're making people laugh now, but where were you? How many siblings? What were you like in school and in your family life? Were you shy? Were you always a sassy little smart aleck? I
Big,
want to hear that.
they're hard questions to answer. So I very complicated childhood. I grew up with 10 siblings. Or yeah, I have five brothers, five sisters, but it's this complex of marriages. So my 10 siblings are the product of seven different marriages. But in total, if you looked at all my parents and the different people they've married, it's a total of 11 marriages, and nine of them failed. Um, and then I was adopted by my stepfather um, when I was 18. Uh, so it's a complicated thing. I haven't really, this is like a box that I haven't opened too much.
That is something else.
Yeah, but it's very different from how I live my life now, where I have one child and no part. I mean, I've been seeing somebody and it's been going really well, but I don't it's kind of still pretty new, and I don't have I get so nervous about having I wanted one marriage, I really wanted one marriage. And
Me too.
so when that didn't work, it was pretty disappointing. I didn't want to have, I didn't want to recreate for my son the thing that I had growing up. Um,
Yes.
there were some cool things about it. My stepfather, the one that is now my adoptive father, he's a novelist, and he wrote, I think, 24 novels, and 16 of them were international bestsellers. So his first best-selling novel sort of launched, I think, when I was like 9 or something. So we had been kind of like we had not been a very, how do I word this? Money was always tight when I was like really little, like before that age. And then suddenly my stepdad stuff took off, and we just like launched into a totally different world. And I was pretty, had a lot of like imposter syndrome, being in the presence of like celebrities. Like we would go to parties that I would meet like people that were celebrity, or children that would shake my hand and introduce me with their first and last name. Like I was supposed to know their last name, and I didn't usually know the last name. But I don't know, it just like it was kind of a confusing world to be in. And I think that I thought that my life was going to go somewhere. Like I thought like, oh, now that my parents are they have such abundance, like I'm going to, go and hopefully, lead a lead a life that makes them proud.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think they're very. My mom's calling me right now. I can't take it. But I yeah, like I feel like I think they thought I was gonna go do something a little more 9 to 5 ish, and what I've done, it still kind of boggles my mind. I don't understand what I'm doing. I have no idea how
Yeah.
I'm doing it. You know, because
And
it's
so
it.
you're in the arts field, which is not a 9 to 5 job at
No.
all. Of course, your stepdad being a novelist, that wasn't a 9 to 5 job.
Oh, he treated it like a 9 to 5 job. It was 7 to 4. He would get up at like 6 in the morning, work from 7 to noon, take an hour lunch break, work until 4, exercise, have like a happy hour conversation with my mom where he was like not to be interrupted. And then we'd have dinner, and then he'd go to bed. Like he was he had a very regimented approach to his creative life. And I I wish I had the kind of discipline that he has. I think I do try. I feel like I really hustle. But I maybe, I probably could write more, like spend more time, just like really committing to writing and reviewing, past tapes and thinking about how I carry myself and that kind of thing. Um,
Absolutely.
mm,
Absolutely. So you've been in comedy under 5 years and you're
yeah.
accomplishing so much for for that length of time, the stuff you're accomplishing. I think most comedians don't accomplish what you do until like 15 years. And your stage presence, your delivery, your crowd work, your likability, you have a natural persona that you let out. I don't think you're trying to be anything, but your personality appears like it's a persona and it's really not. It's really just you.
Thank
And
you.
so like that is at least 10 years. It appears like you've been in this 10 years, if not 15 or 20. I watch your tapes. I do. I watch you on stage and you're always super relatable and super funny.
Thank you much.
Yeah, I love watching you, and the laughs you get are such high laughs, high volume laughs, like
Yeah,
they're not like rolling little, they're like, whoa.
I appreciate that. appreciate that. I'm working
So
on it.
where you're trying to go and write harder or whatever, I think you're nailing it already.
Thank you. Thank you.
I,
I do
I
think
would
that
I wouldn't know how you could get better. You just seem like you're already there.
thank you. Oh my gosh, that's so flattering. I feel like I think that my dad did instill a lot of work ethic, and I think there definitely have been stretches where I have worked super hard, and I think that helps. I think
What is it that Katie Blunt does on a regular basis to keep your momentum going and to keep you moving forward in comedy? Like what is your personal ritual that helps you?
um oh I should have more of a ritual. I feel like I don't. Okay, when I'm doing this, which I have not been doing, but what I think is helpful is each day I like to set an hour, and I put my phone on airplane mode. The first 20 minutes, I'm like stream of consciousness writing. The next 20 minutes, I am reviewing my set from the night before. And then the final 20 minutes, I am writing new material based on the first two things. So it's kind of this like amalgamation of how I'm feeling in the moment and my most recent set. As I'm talking to you, I'm like, oh, I should really explore more of like the, you know, different life circumstances and how I feel about things. I also sometimes I'll pick things up from just like listening to old tapes and things. I feel embarrassed that I used to record conversations with an ex-girlfriend. She knew I was recording. It wasn't like I was secretly recording her, but I just thought our conversations were so funny that sometimes I was like, can I just record whatever comes up between us? And just things like we would write songs together, we would just banter. It was just so funny. So sometimes I'll listen back to those tapes and it'll give me ideas. Um, you know, I think it's so funny to me that there are certain people in my life that have had such an impact on me that I no longer stay in touch with. That's kind of an insane idea.
I like that.
Mm.
I try to take Okay, so I've had a lot of trauma in my life.
Mhm.
A lot of pain, a lot of sadness. I mean, I was born into so much sadness. My parents
Really?
were like traumatized from World War II, and like I was meant to feel guilty and all this stuff. And so when I first went on stage, I was just depressing people. And I wasn't even trying to. I wasn't even trying to use it as therapy. I just had no way of delivering anything in a funny way, you know?
Mhm.
And now I think what I'm thankful for is I can take something that's really sad and depressing and make people laugh about it.
Mm.
So like, uh, that's a switch that I didn't even try to make happen. Like they
Mm.
say, "Oh, you have to wait until you're totally healed from something." I hate all these people with these I don't hate these people. I hate these stupid rules. So does Steve Marshall. He's like my comedy hero. There's rules in comedy and rules are made to be broken. And his saying is don't behave. So like if they say don't say something till you're healed, he's like, no, go say it now before you're
Oh,
healed.
I feel like that's what I said.
So like the other day I went walking, not even a block, to go get a cup of coffee, where I go to get coffee around the corner. And these two young guys called me an old white bitch. Like with attitude, like, yo, white bitch. And I'm like, how do I make that funny? It really hurt, you know? I'm not over it, but I think like, how can I make it funny? And then I just thought, okay, they could see I was old, they could see I was white. That's easy, but how did they know I was a bitch? Stuff like that, Like I don't want to sit in the pain that they were so mean to me for no reason. They didn't even know, but I want to use it as something that can happen to everybody and how we can laugh through it.
Yeah, that's so good. I'm sorry that happened to you.
Thank
God.
thank you. Like there's in Vegas, like in some places, the homeless people or, people that are in they're in check. But here they're very aggressive and it's not exactly easy for me. Like the panhandlers come right up to you in your face. And like I
Yeah,
have this body bubble, you better not break it, and so like yeah.
that's hard.
So I try to the minute anything I look for the things that are hard in life and then I make it a game to see how fast I can make it funny. Is
Mm-hmm.
that weird? It's kind of like, like the waitress is being rude. Okay, what's funny about this? Rather than sit and feel sorry for myself that the waitress is being mean today, how can I make that funny? Because everybody's
That's
got what do you do like in your daily? Do you pick up stuff from your daily going on the subway, going to a restaurant like every day?
times. I find like if I start to have thoughts about something, I feel like it's helpful for me to voice record it rather than write it down sometimes. And it depends. If it's coming to my mind in terms of just like hearing it in my head, then I have to do the voice record thing. If I'm like, hey, I wonder what would happen if I wrote about X, then I do the writing, you know?
That's smart.
Kind of like day-to-day stuff. I think that when things really hurt me, I do like to turn them into jokes. That is, I think, a great thing to do. And I'm just thinking about like some of my better jokes I think have come out of things that people have said that I thought was really stupid.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the braggadocious stuff. And like ego is not really something I like dealing with, but I gotta say, you blew me away, Katie Blunt. You were on a thingamajig with Erica Rhodes.
Oh, that was so fun. She's amazing. She's really, really great.
That
Um,
was so cool to see you with her.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, she's such a force. I feel like I love her comedy. I think it's so funny. I think she's so funny. And she's really easy to work with and just a really wonderful person. So that was cool. It was really
That
cool
was
to
so
see.
cool. You went on this tell people about your travels this summer. I just find it fascinating that somebody who's a mother is now, it's almost like a play or a novel. It's a good basis. Like a mother is free for a summer. What does she do?
Yeah, that's so interesting. I drove I was planning to drive across the country and my initial plan was to go DC, Nashville, Dallas, Denver, Vegas, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and then back up to San Francisco. And in Los Angeles, I was going to do Hollywood Pitch Fest. The whole reason I started it was because I signed up for Hollywood Pitch Fest and I had my dog for the summer. And my dog can't fly on a plane. And it's like $1,000 to drive her across the country. And
Well,
so there's a few different things. One is I could have boarded her here, flown out for Pitch Fest. Is there an issue with the connection?
yeah, and I just plugged it in on my
Sorry.
end a little
Okay.
tighter.
Okay. Let me see if I can quit out of my other apps because sometimes that can help too.
Should be good now.
Okay, great. Yeah, it seems like it's better. Um, but so initially I was like, oh, I can go to Hollywood, I can go to LA for like it's a 3-day, 4-day seminar. I could go to LA for that 4-day seminar. I could board the dog here. That's easy. I could do that. But a few things were happening. I don't know. I was getting really irritated with how I felt in New York. I was having a hard time with the social aspects of New York comedy. And I just felt frustrated. So I was like, you know what, why don't I take off for like a couple months? And if I'm not, if I don't need to be here with my son, I should go for a couple months. And then that becomes really ridiculous to have the dog boarded with somebody for months. So I wound up driving I was going to drive in that direction, hit Hollywood Pitch Fest, and then I was going to drive up to San Francisco and stay with my mom for like a month. And then I wound up halfway, well, before the summer started, before that drive started, my grandmother died, and she lived in Hawaii for a long time. And so um when I
Sorry.
was, yeah, thanks. She was wonderful. When I was in Nashville, um my mom was or when I was driving to Nashville, she was like, "Hey, we've decided we're actually going to have the service in 2 days. And so you're just gonna need to figure out a place to put the dog." So I did, found a place to put the dog for a couple days. And then my grandmother worked for American for 40 years. So all of her descendants got to fly to Hawaii for free on American, which was pretty cool. So we all went to Hawaii and we, had a ceremony for her, and it was a lot to process. Uh, I have a friend who said that every time the matriarch of a family dies, you should sell tickets to strangers, because and with like a playbill of like each of the people and their different grievances, because it is crazy. It is like Hollywood level drama, the way that people interact with each other. It's so crazy.
Oh, that's comedy gold.
I know. In the wake of a funeral, there's a reason they call it a wake. It is so crazy. You're all just seasick. It's intense.
Hilarious. That is
Oh,
so weird, and that is a gold mine of comedy right there to drill out.
yeah. I haven't talked too much about it. The, the only joke I have about it is that my grandmother died, and I'm dating a black man right now, and he never met her. That's not what killed her. But anyway, that's the only.
That's funny. That
Yeah.
needs breathing room for a lot of laughter there. I think people can laugh 2 or 3 times with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to build more around it. but yeah, so it hit me hard. It was so difficult. And so this plan that I had was like, oh, I'm going to drive across the country. I'm going to get lots of Instagram stuff on the way. I'm going to post a ton. And then when I come back to New York, I'll be like, I'll have had all this experience and I'll be in a better place. But the stuff with my grandmother, I don't know, it just kind of took me out. Like I just didn't feel comfortable posting a whole lot. And I crafted a lot more than I put out. Like I cut reels and stuff that I didn't share. Because I didn't just hard sometimes. It's hard sometimes to do this while still being a person.
Exactly.
But what wound up happening was I had to cut out Dallas and Denver from the trip, and I drove from Nashville to Vegas. I think I stopped in two places on the way. And then I went from Vegas to San Francisco, from San Francisco to LA. I did the Hollywood Pitch Fest. I pitched my scripts to a few places, and I did the what's it called? I performed at the Comedy Store twice, which is cool. And then I did the Hotel Cafe Erica Rhodes and Friends show. And it was really fun. It was really cool. I'm trying to think if there was anything else. Oh, I pitched an idea um to this production company. I need to follow up about it, but about the possibility of a docu-series called Sad Moms.
Oh,
Which I
wow.
think would be cool.
Sad moms?
Sad Moms featuring female comedian mothers. I think it would be interesting, to see. I'm interested to see how different moms deal with this. I kind of want to see the behind the scenes stuff a little bit. And people ask me questions that make me think that that's what they're curious about. I don't do anything. I never talk about like my ex-husband. A lot of people ask me about that stuff, and I don't think it's funny, but I think it's interesting.
Yeah. Wow. I do a lot of really digs at my ex-husband, and he's one of my Facebook friends.
Oh, really?
I post every joke on Facebook.
That's so funny. My ex doesn't follow me on any socials. I'm like, thank God. he actually has been pretty sweet about like supporting the comedy stuff more than I expected. When I first started, he was kind of a jerk about it, but he got cooler as we went. I think he was just nervous at first. He was like, his argument initially was that he could not be asked to reimburse me for the childcare required for me to do comedy because it wasn't work. He's like, this is a hobby. Unless you can prove that it's an actual career with an actual possibility behind it, then you cannot expect me to pay for your childcare hours.
Wow.
And I worked really hard to monetize. I pay taxes on comedy stuff. I don't make a lot of money on it, but I feel like it did prompt me to it's it can't be just about the art. There has to be a way to monetize. There has to be a way because it's so expensive. It really is very expensive to
Very.
pay for childcare to perform.
In 1982, I was a corporate trainer at Washington Mutual in the headquarters, and we had a comedian come, and he got $50,000 for 1 hour.
Wow.
So there's money in it, and corporate comedy, and even like with me, I would love to do kind of corporate comedy where you take groups of people that aren't getting along
Mm-hmm.
and kind of like help the groups get along. They have a term for it. I can't remember what it is, but
Mm-hmm.
bringing peace to the work environment through comedy and military comedy to help
Oh,
them heal their traumas. Like my comedy has to have a purpose. It just can't be yuck yucks.
mhm. I love that. I love that so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, my sister does some kind of work like that too. I think it's really interesting to think about group dynamics and how they work. I've never thought about doing stand up to facilitate something like that. So I think that's really cool. How do you get into corporate stuff? What is the I've never I haven't done any corporate gigs.
You want an easy shortcut?
Yeah.
Like I'm really into guerrilla marketing. Like I've had things go viral back at the beginning of the internet just by guerrilla marketing. So, like, if I wanted to get into corporate speaking today, which is not my focus till after March, I would go to LinkedIn and call yourself, give yourself a title, corporate comedian. There's no law against calling yourself a corporate comedian.
Mhm.
Put it out there. And then people are there looking for corporate comedians, and there you are. And you can name your price. I mean, I have made a ton of money doing telemarketing from home just by going out and saying I'm a telemarketer. And I did a great job telemarketing. So I'm sure, like I used to teach corporate how to be a banker for 7 days, and I had people laughing for 7 days. So,
That's
5 minutes
cool.
on stage shouldn't be a problem. Sometimes it is, but like
Mhm.
call yourself and put it out there, and your audience will find the people will find you. And go ask people who are corporate comedians. You can do it covert or overtly. You can say, hey, I'm looking for a corporate comedian and send me your stuff. And then you can look at it and see what they're doing. Or you can just go Google different corporate comedians and see or you can hook up with a corporate comedian and go, I'd like to be an understudy, maybe help you with your corporate and be around you. And eventually, when I get to a place, I'll be off on my own and you'll get a slice of whatever I make for the first 5 years or whatever. But could I be around you? Could you show me the ropes? People love to have somebody to help. They do.
Mhm. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
That's a
But
really good.
I've done comedy in nursing homes. That's fun. Have you done that?
No, you know what I really want to do is comedy in pediatric hospitals.
Oh,
Because I have that kids show, but I always feel like it's just once a month and it's so hard to like prepare for. So I feel like, oh, it'd be so fun and I think so much more productive instead of going to a mic and waiting after listening to 60 minutes of other people. It'd be so cool to go room to room, family to family, and crack jokes to kids that are in the hospital. And sometimes it doesn't have to be like kids that are like super sick. I feel like it could be kids that are recovering from surgery and just are like stuck in the hospital for a few days. Like sometimes it's fun to have
Let me
else.
know because, I mean, when I get there, I'll take you down to the VA hospital, introduce you to the people. Like they have Ronald
Oh,
McDonald houses, and that's where
yeah, that's
kids are born
amazing.
with their heart outside their body, and the family is there, and you can do that your family comedy.
That's so cool. Yeah, and I'm super, I mean, I've spent over 600 hours like shadowing doctors in hospital. You know, I was almost a doctor. So I spent a lot of time in hospitals. I was pre-med at Columbia and I did a lot of volunteer work in hospitals. I'm comfortable around a lot of like different hospital stuff. So I feel like it would be a nice way to like blend that history and those worlds all together, you know? I think
I've
it would be
I've gone and done comedy for veterans in the hospital,
Mhm.
and that's fun, especially like, when they're such an affected group of people in a specific kind of way. Their trauma is so buried,
Mm.
as opposed to children, it's medical reasons that they're up against something if they're in the hospital. But a lot of soldiers are in for trauma and psychological issues and, coping. So yeah, I would love to go with you to you can come with me to do military comedy and I'll go and watch you do your yeah, we can kind of
That'd be cool. I need to figure out how to get that off the ground because I think it would be helpful. To have just like even if it's like 1 hour a week, it's like volunteer work, but it's also helping me develop myself.
abs-
Um, and I think especially if I could do it while my son is in school, I am struggling financially right now. If I'm being honest, it's like a struggle. And so I don't know. I think when my son comes home, I'm really going to have to pull back on the hours that I'm spending outside of the house while he's home. You know, I think I really need to spend, I also miss him. Like I need to spend time with him. So if I can find ways to perform while he's in school between the hours of 8:30 and 2:30, which is such a crazy time, that would be great.
here's a thought. You can get on Zoom and you can invite people whose children are in the hospital. You can have kids who are in the hospital come on or families and make them laugh. I've done fire
Yeah,
departments on Zoom.
I'm not a big fan of Zoom. I was on one Zoom show and I really didn't like it. It just I think for me personally, I need to be in an in-person scenario or maybe if I were like in a location with a show where all the comics were in the same place and we had an audience there and it was being filmed and live streamed or something, that'd be fine. But I don't know about the sitting at my house with where did I put it?
You know what I like about being on Zoom doing comedy is that, like, say I'm telling a joke, I can have my notes around me in case it's new material and no one really knows. And people can get me so much easier. Like I go, hey, how you doing? It's so great to be here. Like, oh my gosh, you have no idea what it's like. And like they can see like that you're really connected to them or their material so much better than if the lights are in your face and you can't even see them and you can see the little squares of their reactions instantly of every person. You can see everyone's reactions instantly.
Yeah, I think that I was on, there were a lot of like Zoom bombers. So there was like a lot of like nudity and weird stuff in those squares, you know? And the direct messages that I got were like insane and I couldn't even address them. It's like heckles. It was just for me, that was like terrible.
Yeah. You know how I got the story? I have to tell you the story how I got the VA to let me do comedy in Manhattan for the veterans. It took me a year to get the Portland VA in my hometown to let me do comedy for the vets. Nothing
Mm,
but problems, nothing but no, no, no. I went back my hometown, right? I
mhm,
walked into the Manhattan one after 9/11.
mhm.
And I said, hey, I want to do comedy. And the lady says, you're talking to the right person. Come on in my office. And she's like, where do you want to do it at? And I go, I don't know. The most depressed, the most upset, the people that are up against the wall, those are the ones I want, the ones nobody else. So they let me do comedy like that. I had to do paperwork for a couple months, but they said yes the minute I asked. And
Mhm.
when it's the right place for you, it's gonna just open up if you knock on the door. The right place will open.
Right.
That's all I have to say.
Good. That's a good.
Yeah. You know what? When I forced my way into doing comedy in Portland, Oregon, and it was nothing but a headache from the get-go. It was like, and then when a door just opens for you, then that's meant to be. Like
Mm.
sometimes you can force your way into things, and like you wish you wouldn't have.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
I
learned.
feel like I think there's something so positive about being resilient in the face of that kind of struggle. I've seen you struggle with, you're not, you don't struggle, but I've seen you up against things that felt to me, but just witnessing it to be really unfair. Like that mic that you came to where there were all those guys saying that horrible stuff. It was just like, remember, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes,
Yeah, and I mean, I only saw like a few minutes of it because I think I just came in and did my spot and then headed out. But it
so
was I feel like that sucked. I don't know.
it was
You're just
terrible.
it was
That it
so
was, like, how dare you? Like, we did a great job with
yeah.
make and I'm sorry that the people from the bar wanted to come in and watch the show just to watch us 2 women, and then they wanted to leave, but before they left, they wanted to stand there and get our socials, and they were a little too social. I'm sorry. It didn't do it to upset your set, but
Oh
geez.
my gosh. No, it wasn't even that. It was so many of these guys that like weren't they're not like working comedians, like they're just open micers. They're just guys that have never been booked anywhere, and they were getting up there and they were just roasting you. And it's like you are traveling the country. You've done over 1,000 interviews with comedians. Like you're like an established comedian and they're just being such idiots. But I think that's also what happens sometimes, bottom of the barrel, these
You know what?
guys.
Every comedy club, I'd like to, if you have a comedy club or you're at a comedy club, I'd like to challenge you. Also, all too often, we put up these posters of Dave Attell and Mark Maron, and God love them all. They're famous and they've been doing comedy forever and they're legends. But what's happening that I noticed is not me, but you bring up a good idea. There are local people, there are people in every comedy club who are grinding for decades and they go unnoticed. Like it's my pet. I was sitting next to a guy yesterday, Steve Kader, Kader. He's been a ventriloquist. He's opened up at the Michael Jackson thingamajig on the strip. He's never done stand up alone, but he's done comedy in great. He was one of the original Chippendales, you know. He's he's grinded for 25, 30 years. He comes in and sits down next to me and some newbie comic comes up and says, "Oh, are you going up tonight?" And he goes, and I thought this was going to be really cool. And he goes, Steven says, "Yeah, I'm going to go up." And he goes, "Oh, for the first time?" I'm like, where is the respect? There's no, like, people don't even ask. They just make us, I haven't seen you, so you're brand new. Or like, there should be a wall in every club. Like, I like the Grizzly Pear because they put local legends up there on the wall, like Pete Burdett, and, and like, we shouldn't be idolizing only Mark Maron level. We should have a wall. Who are the people that have come and supported this club? Who are the people in here today that you should, I don't know, maybe show a little respect to?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I really love that. I think it is tough. there's another part of me that's like, I kind of want to be more forgiving. I think sometimes my mind can kind of jump to things. Remember there was this one guy I sat next to at an open mic, and he goes, he asked me some question, and I was like, oh no, I'm on the show. Like it was clear that he like didn't think that I was doing it. And then he was like, so are you funny? And it was like so annoying, to be asked that question. And then I've seen him around, and he has said some of the nicest things to me.
Oh.
Like years later, 2.5 years later, he'll sometimes come over to me and be like, Katie, I gotta say, every time I see you, you make me laugh. Like, and it's just so nice. And so sometimes I think, it's like people are human. Everybody makes mistakes or says something that sometimes can come off a little like not quite right. We're all trying to be funny, and there's a lot of like swings and misses. So there's a part of me that's like, they're trying, and they're just kind of lopsided or not quite, it's not quite working. But I think that's what happens a lot is these guys that are kind of like incels for laughter. Like they've never gotten a laugh in their life, and they're just trying so hard. It's like they're trying to chop a tree down with a dildo, and it's just like not working. Those are the guys that are always gonna say that like racist, sexist bullshit. I'm sorry.
That's
I'm
so true.
true.
It's like, can you dig deeper? Have you had any life? It's almost like I want to go on stage and say, I had to wait till I was 63 so I'd have something to talk about. Like, I went to a few open mics and I'm like, I'm waiting. I'm gonna wait till I got something to say. Not like, even if you're 18, you've got something to say. Dig deep.
Yeah.
I remember at that open mic where they got on me about being an interruption, they also were super rude to you about your son's special need. And that made me
Oh
so
yeah.
sad.
Yeah. I'm so over it at this point. I'm so over it. I feel like it used to really bother me, but I guess it sometimes bothers me. But what's really fun is a couple things. One is if somebody follows me, they use the R word in their set, it bombs so hard. And I just love that. I really love that. Um, or if, yeah, sometimes it is fun to watch the way that if I'm talking earnestly about what it's like to be a mom to a kid who has autism or is autistic, and I'm just talking about our lives and his thoughts and how it's so interesting. And I love him. I feel like it comes across how much I love him. It's so
Yeah.
fun to be followed by somebody who's using that dildo to try to chop down a tree.
You know what I like about the fact that you speak about being the mother of an autistic child is that you do it in the fact that out of that challenge, you created an entire new market for comedy. So
Mm.
speak to us about your show that you do that is
Oh,
family friendly. I love that you came up with that as an answer to having an autistic child and the challenges of babysitting. So tell people about that backstory.
yeah. So I have a son who is autistic and also too young to be brought to comedy shows. So I created it first started out in my backyard. I used to live in an apartment that had a backyard, and so I would have these backyard comedy shows because I could have my son sleeping in the next room. And initially I thought I could call it Don't Wake the Baby. He was in the next room, and I thought like, let's have a quiet laugh comedy show. Let's just see what it's like to do a quiet laugh comedy show where if you laugh too loud you get slapped with a diaper, empty diaper. But still, I was like, oh, this will be so fun. Everybody, I think it'd be fun to give everybody a clean diaper, and if anyone in the audience laughs too loud, you slap them with a diaper. And then I think the ripples of laughter and slaps would be so fun. But that then the whole Will Smith thing happened, and my mom was like, Katie, that is in poor taste. We didn't do that, but we still called it Don't Wake the Baby. And then I wound up moving out of the Upper West Side. I no longer had that backyard, and I pitched the idea to Felicia Madison, who's the booker and owner of West Side Comedy Club. And she uh you know um gave me that space to run my family friendly kid show. And we got written up, and then Amy Margulies came on board. Amy Margulies is another single mom on the Upper West Side who is also a really phenomenal marketer. And so she had all these ideas and ways to like launch the show and improve the show. And so she comes to almost every show. She brings her kids. It's so fun to see her. I love meeting up with her outside of the show too. And then we wound up getting written up in West Side Rag, which I feel like was Felicia mentioned it, but it was kind of after Amy had suggested it too. So we got an article published, and then the next show we had like 120 people show up, which was really great. And it's been fun. It's been like a fun um yeah, fun show.
That's so cool. And maybe they could launch that in different cities.
That is what Amy has been talking about, trying to do a franchise, a Milk and Cookies franchise. I don't know how to do it. I need to follow up with her and do that
Yeah,
because
I know Irma, one of my good buddies in comedy, Irma Ruiz,
Mhm.
she started doing Teachers Gone Bad. Teachers that after they're done with their teaching job, they go out and they're really cut loose in comedy, just balls to the wall comedy, but they're teachers during the day. And
Mhm.
so they've got the guts, to do that. And now her shows are all over the country at the improvs and
Mhm.
comedy stores, I think, and at punchlines. And so you might pick her brain or have you and Miss Margulies pick her brain if you get up
What's her name?
Irma, Irma Ruiz, Ruiz. She does Teachers Gone Bad shows all over the country.
Oh, that's cool.
So that'd be she's already doing it, so that'd be a good person for you to network with.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah, I love her. So yeah, quality stuff. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
so tell people where you want them to follow, because probably should end this for now, but I'd love to have you come back on and co-interview people with me.
Thank you. That's
I
so
think you
sweet.
would come up with great questions. And like I said, when we were off screen, you'll see through the bullshit real fast. Like, let me do your numerology
Oh
numbers because
yeah.
I've seen some bullshit.
Well, I don't think there's any bad. I don't know if there are really bad people. I think
No.
there are levels of it. I think there are people that are not aligning their vision and their talent. And so sometimes you have people that they're not bad, but they are pursuing something that is not for them.
Wow.
Which then comes across as kind of awkward or not quite landing. Um,
I love that.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's just
there
like,
aren't bad people, but in comedy, there are a lot of egos that come out during the interview process.
oh, really?
Yeah.
During the interview?
Oh, yeah. I have stories that'll go to my grave.
Ah,
Some of them are on video.
so funny. I want to. We should do a year in review. You should do a like where we comment on the interview, like just like do like a best of, pick the craziest things. I think
I
that'd
would
be so.
like to do the awkward moments of Linda Marcus Smith. Like, okay, I tried to get you on here to promote you as a good person, but you chose to put this out there. So here you go. Call it a blooper.
You could also, yeah, you could call bloopers. You could also do DM series. I really love reading DM series. I have a friend, Megan Jeffrey, who does a DM series of guys that are hitting on her on Instagram. And she is so snarky in her responses, but it's very funny. And so she'll just it's like a carousel, and you're just like zooming through these texts. They're so funny. I feel like you might have there might be something similar for you to explore in terms of screenshots you could take of conversations you've had with other comics. You could blurt out their name so that nobody knows who it is, but but I think it's funny to look at that stuff.
I invited this one guy's name is gonna be left totally out, but this one guy, I'm just me and I have a brain injury and I'm 73 and I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I just said, I find you so interesting. I'd like to interview you. And he writes back and he goes, I said something about how many interviews I had done, and he goes, I find it hard to believe that you have had that many interviews and you don't even know how to approach somebody. I'm like, oh pal, you are in for a bumpy,
Oh, wow.
you don't even know what you're messing with.
Yeah. Gosh.
Oh, anyway, tell people what you got coming up and where to follow you, please, Katie.
Oh, yeah. So follow me at Katie Blunt Comedy on Instagram. And then big shows I have coming up are Milk and Cookies is September 8th. And then my Psych, a comedy show, is September 17th. And that's going to be crazy. Both of those shows are going to be awesome. I'm really excited about the lineups on both of them. I think it's going to be really good.
Very good. I've gone to the psych. What do you call the psych one?
It's a Psych, a comedy show.
Yeah. I love how you mix both reading, doing a psychic reading and comedy.
Thank you.
You come up with the best premises for comedy shows. Those are two fabulous ones. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Really
Yeah,
appreciate
congratulations on all your successes. And I can't wait to hobnob with you in February. In
it.
person.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm excited about it too.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time and coming on. I'll do some 10-second clips out of today and I'll do some minute clips out of it and I'll put it on my YouTube and everywhere, Snapchat, TikTok. And so we'll see what kind of traction we get. Thank you so much, Katie Blunt.
Appreciate it. All right.
Bye. Love you.
Oh, thank you. So sweet. Bye.
Bye.